Okay, should we start?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start. Okay. I need to be standing here, I expect. Hi, everyone. Come, don't sit at the back down there. You're charging your phone, yes. It's good because maybe you need to be talking to each other because this is a workshop. So thank you for coming. Coming all this way to Vigo to see me. Some of you had to take buses and trains and planes and so on. Let me introduce myself. I'm Daniele. That's what I look like on television. I work at Canonical. I'm a director of engineering. I was a Django project co-developer when that was a thing. Still a badge of honor. How many of you have encountered the Diataxis documentation framework or heard of it? A few of you. Okay, so that's what I'm responsible for. I'm in the business of documentation, open source community contributor. I was with Anna and Dawn. We organized the DjangoCon Africa that took place last year. Anyway, this is not about me. Let me tell you a little bit, very briefly, about Canonical. I'm hiring specifically about 120 technical authors to work on documentation for Ubuntu and hundreds of open source software products. Also hiring developer relations engineers, a CMS documentation platform engineer, engineering directors for community and developer relations, all kinds of Python people. So I'm going to share all this with you in a minute, so you can have access to these slides. But there's a document I want you to read first, just so you can navigate our system. Oh, sorry, I should be in front of the microphone. I forgot. So you can navigate our system with the best luck. But I'll talk to you about that afterwards. So, who's here because they're interested in working on Django documentation? Okay, well, I hope you mostly are, because this is kind of what that's about. So if you're not interested in that, you're probably in the wrong place. And if you want to leave quietly without looking too embarrassed, now is the time. Because the longer you stay, the worse it gets. So one of the problems, let me point this here because I can't, one of the problems that we have in open source software, especially on something like Django, Django is pretty conservative about what it accepts, has very high standards for everything. Everybody who puts in a pull request or makes a suggestion has to go through several iterations with Natalia before it can be accepted. There's Natalia, our Django fellow, who is, the gatekeeper of quality. So it's difficult. You think, oh God, I'll never get this done. This is too difficult. So two things: the confidence to do it, and the feeling, the blessing. Yeah, this is the right way to do it. I've been permitted or empowered to do this. Where do you find those two things to work on something? Well, that's what this session is about here. So, confidence. It's not about knowing what it must be like. This is the thing, that in one of the lessons that I'm trying to get across in documentation to the entire software industry is that knowing what the final thing should be is not necessary for us to work with confidence. All we need to know are the rules. And the rules are actually quite simple. I know the rules. I can tell you the rules, okay? So with those rules, which I've actually gone to the trouble of writing down for you, you can work on documentation, on the Django documentation, because the Django documentation tries to follow the same rules too. You can do that work with confidence. And as for the blessing, this idea that you're empowered or entitled to do it, Daniele said it was okay. Okay? I will give you the blessing, okay? And that's the best blessing you can have when it comes to documentation, and especially on Django. Isn't that true, Natalia? It is. It really is, okay? With my blessing, you can do it, okay? And also, just as an addition, I'll be here during this, at least the first day of the sprints. So if you're here at the sprints and want to do something, want to actually try and get it done, I'll help you get it done. Okay. So that's the, again, I'll share the slides, so don't try and find it now. We're going to be using the Diataxis documentation framework or applying it. And it's not the time for me to explain that to you. But anyway, the best way to discover it is through using it. So I don't know how well you can read things at the back. Maybe you want to come to the front. I'm just going to show you very briefly these rules, but then I'm going to give them to you to read by giving you the link to the slides, okay? So look, there are 4 kinds of documentation, and there are 4 kinds of documentation in Django's documentation. There are tutorials, how-to guides, reference material, and explanation. Those are all 4 and the only 4 kinds of documentation that we are concerned with, okay? Each one of them is correct when it follows certain rules. So for example, in a tutorial, well, you establish a tutor-learner relationship. I'm sorry for the people online. In a tutorial, you focus on the concrete and you avoid abstraction. In a tutorial, you tell the users what to expect and to notice, and so on. Okay, so there are more. These are not the only rules, but they're ones that I want to give you right now. A how-to guide is a different kind of thing. A how-to guide, I want you to address a real-world situational problem. I want you to assume user competence. Oh, by the way, I should have pointed this out. When you're dealing with a tutorial, ask yourself all the time, what do you want the user to learn? I said a tutorial has this relationship between a tutor and a learner. Who's in charge? Who's in charge in a tutor-learner relationship? Tutor. The tutor. Who's the tutor? You are the tutor when you're writing documentation. It's not what the user wants to learn, it's what you want the user to learn. Yeah? So that's what you must be thinking. What do I need the user to learn? Yeah? No use asking them. Then what do they know? They're doing the tutorial. In a how-to guide, what is the user trying to achieve? That's the question that's in front of you. Oh, it's not about the machinery. People, these things, you'll start to see them. How-to guides that are all about click, do this, click that. That's not a how-to guide. That's instructing a robot how to press buttons. That's not interesting. Yeah. So a how-to guide is about somebody's purpose, what somebody wants to achieve. In a reference guide, we want to be consistent and precise and accurate and complete. We're looking for neutral description. Oh, we're following the structure of the machinery. Yeah. If the code, if there's a module with a class and some methods inside it, then the structure of your reference documentation should be about first the module and then the class and then the methods. So it's like when you have a map, there's a one-to-one relationship. Yeah. And you ask yourself, what information does the user need? And the final kind of documentation, explanation, is what the user needs to understand. It makes connections, it draws parallels. It's interesting, actually. It's the only kind of documentation you can read in the bath if you're a normal kind of person. It's for the user who's not actually working at that moment. It's for the user who is away from the work. Okay, everything you need is going to be on that link. So is that, if you can't, I'll put it on Slack. That's probably a better thing to do, right? Okay, so I can stop.
Wait, but the access is not open though.
Sorry?
Yeah, the access is not open.
You need access.
You need access. Okay, right. There's always a technical problem, isn't there? Let me come out of this and let me make one. And yes, okay. So first of all, let me share this with everybody. I thought I'd done that. No, I hadn't. Anyone with a link can view it. Great. Okay, so try opening that again, and then I'll also paste the link into Slack. Can you read things from the back there?
Yeah.
Okay. So that should open this document, and then the task sheet, which I'll look at with you in a moment, is another file. Okay, so let me send that link into Slack. Is there I don't see a channel for it. I'll just put it in the general channel. Okay. Sorry for the spam, everybody. Link for the workshop slides. Okay. There you are. Good. All right. They'll forgive me, I think. Not now. Right, let's go back to this. Okay, so what I've got here is a little spreadsheet, okay? And we're going to use the spreadsheet. So you should have access to it. You don't have access to it. Shit. Ah. I wonder what I have shared then. If I haven't, I know I was sharing something. I don't know what it was. No, but before I did this, I was preparing. It must have been, my blackmail letters or something. So anyway, everybody's got access to that now, so you should be able to jump in. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, not me, you, because it's a workshop and you're doing the work. You're going to identify some things in the documentation that you think could be improved. And you're going to say where it is. You're going to say what you think the rule is. We'll talk about that. You'll talk about the particular problem, and then you will suggest an immediate next action, okay? And if I like it, I will bless it, okay? Yeah, that's how I bless it, how we bless things nowadays in spreadsheets. Then if you're going to do it right now, you can put your name in there, and when it's done, it's done. Otherwise, it's not. And then it will be done, okay? But everything that you put in there, refactoring the tutorial, that's not, no. Changing a heading or a paragraph or a word, that's the level at which we operate, okay? You can save refactoring for some other time, but do the tiny things, really small things, okay? So here is writing your first Django app, part 1. Okay, so my 2 examples came from here. I've actually got a Google document of it here, so I can, but we don't, have you all got a computer? Does anybody need to sit with somebody else to share a computer? So please do. It's better if you work with other people. So sit next to somebody and you can argue with them and so on and talk to them. Yeah, don't sit on your own. I want to take you through 2 small examples. And then I want your examples. Okay, so let's actually start here. What were my examples? They were, okay. So here's how many of you have done the Django tutorial? Yeah, and how many of you have actually really done it and not just putting your hands up so you don't look bad in front of others? Yeah, okay, good. It's actually, I think, a really pretty good tutorial. I don't think it's the best tutorial in Django. I think in some ways the Django Girls tutorial is a bit better, but maybe we can actually improve this, okay? Who has any opinions about the Django tutorial? Who's done it? Yeah, what did you think? Good? Yes. Okay. Okay, so for the people online, a beginner is saying that she found that there was too much information in the tutorial for a beginner's needs, correct? Is that right? Yeah, okay. Did you do the Django Girls tutorial as well, by any chance? Yes. How do they compare?
Because just one year single example of how to build a Django project. Yeah. Very good. And then I went to the Django tutorial and got lost.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have comments about the Django tutorial? Good or bad?
Maybe from more intermediate perspective, I found it a little bit too verbose.
It's too verbose. Yeah.
And it doesn't cover like some more advanced buttons which could be used in the future, like managers, for instance. So it feels like it emphasizes on simplicity.
Yeah.
Rather than like maintainability of the code, which makes sense if you are just starting with the project with that's
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
Your perspective is kind of the opposite of, I don't know your name, sorry about it. Yeah. Good. Anyone else? Okay. I did this tutorial, but I did it in about 2009 or something, and some of it is still very much the same as it was then. And here we are creating a project. Where should this code live? Can you read that, by the way? By the way, if you're doing this on yours, make sure you're looking at the development version. Where should this code live? Now, this was interesting for me back in 2009. If your background is in plain old PHP with no use of modern frameworks, you're probably used to putting your code under the web server's document root. Yeah. And that made sense in 2009. Does anybody think that makes a lot of sense nowadays in 2024? How many of you started off using plain old PHP? No, we're in a different world. Look how much space this thing takes up on the page. So in here, by the way, can you read this at the back? Or I suppose you're in the document, even if you can't read it on the screen. Yeah, okay. So I think I've identified the thing, okay? One of my principles for a tutorial, if you look at the rules that I shared with you, rules for a tutorial, what does it say? Don't distract with information, okay? I think that that section that we just pointed out is distracting the user. I think it's distracting the user with something that is A, not even relevant, and B, confusing, and C, not even connected to anything that they're likely to know. Do you agree with me, or does anybody disagree? It's good if I have at least one person. Normally I plant a stooge in the audience to disagree, but does anybody disagree? No, okay, it's okay to disagree with me. So what do you think we should do? Any suggestions? What should we do, Natalia?
I don't know this there. I'm not sure if that helps.
You're not sure? You do know why?
Yeah.
Okay, why is it there?
Because it was developed, anything to do with using it, using
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. You're offering me why as an explanation rather than as a reason. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's how it happened to be there in the first place. Why is it there now? Is there still a good reason now? No, I don't. I think we should simply remove that section. In fact, I mean, I would go further than you. I would just say let's get rid of it completely. Do we need it anywhere in Django's documentation?
easier to be understood, particularly in the template system. If you understand that there's a link with PHP.
Yeah, but I think that I think that hardly anybody nowadays is relying on a link with PHP. Yeah? I saw a hand up at the back. Could say.
Yes, maybe we look at what is the purpose of the nodes. Like in the PHP comment, is it to let people know about how to organize their codes? Maybe you reword it about make it more about educating people about organizing your code, and then take out the reference to PHP.
Well, I think this question, where should this code live? That's a reasonable one, but I think the answer should be pretty much anywhere in your user space. Yeah.
So basically just a lost sentence.
That would be my suggestion. You had a question?
No, your point like removed because nobody gonna use old PHP and that's true. But even nowadays, if you had still want to make this correlation with PHP, you'd have to make it with a new framework and what they are doing.
Yes.
Like Laravel.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Other frameworks also use the question like
Yeah.
PHP. Nowadays, PHP is not what it was.
Yeah.
I know because I became in PHP.
Yeah.
Like it's what brought me to the
Yeah.
but nowadays it's
Yeah.
not anymore.
So now, I think that the immediate next action should be simply to remove that section. Maybe we can slightly modify that, like for example, keep that last line of it, or maybe find another place for it, or something. But that would be my suggestion. Okay. Simply remove it. There's another one in exactly the same section where it says, let's look at what start project created. Oh, look, let's look at what start there. It created that. Okay, that's nice. That's good. Remember, one of the rules is tell the user what to notice and expect. The user should not be having doubt. The learner in a tutorial should not be having doubt. And neither should you, by the way. You should know exactly what's going to happen at every stage, yeah? And that's good. I can think, oh yeah, mine looks like that too. When you're doing your first Django tutorial, was it really helpful for you to have, did an entry point for ASGI compatible web servers mean anything to you? No.
The tree with my size managed my size.
That.
And I think that what's confusing to me, and maybe this, if we can correct this documentation, is that the project is named my site, and the file which has all the init and settings and the ASCII and the WSGI and the URLs, that's like the main project, is also named my site. And that was really confusing to me because then you add the application, which is named either web or API or whatever, and it's confusing me what is what. So
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're right, because we have. I think that's going to be a bigger question than documentation, though, because of the way the template for creating projects works altogether in Django.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's just for what actually
Okay.
my site does.
I'm going to ask you to come back with that thought in about 2 minutes' time, okay? So maybe this one is more controversial than the first one, but I think looking at this, yeah. Now, remember, we're dealing with somebody's first exposure to Django. I think that in a tutorial, we should let the user get on with learning by doing, not interrupt their flow by making them look at and read things that they don't even understand. Okay, so I think, in my opinion, the explanation of all those files that are created literally doesn't mean anything to the new user, and there are things that they don't need to know either. If they need to, every one of those files that they need to know anything about, we will tell them at the right moment in the rest of the tutorial. So I don't think that that information itself is bad. I would suggest, in this case, not deleting it, but moving it somewhere else in the start project documentation, if we don't have it somewhere else. Yes, you had a question, or want to say something.
Read it and don't say anything about it. Make a reference. That's what I would like. We'll explain what these files mean later.
That's a good idea. Links are an excellent way of saying, okay, there's some more information over there. You don't need to look at it now, but if you want it, you can go and find it over there. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
I think links would be this useful, depending on work. If you have never worked with Django or any other first time, seeing this it's too much.
Yeah.
No, but everything is slow.
Yeah.
But if, for example, you come from the Spring or any other framework, I think it's easier to start understanding from the beginning what are the similarities or where to find the files that you will use in the other framework.
So I would move that to some page that's about the start project command, for example. Maybe there's a reference or explanation guide somewhere that we could find a better home for it. Or maybe it exists there already. I didn't even check. But
I just wanted to make a comment that I think links are very helpful, but they can also be a bit overwhelming if used too much. So as a beginner, I think you just want to get something done, and then if you're overloaded with links, you just maybe go down the rabbit hole.
Exactly. I mean, if we're going to put a link there, then we need to say something like, if you want to know more about this, then go and see such and such. Okay, so does my reasoning so far seem more or less reasonable to you? Yeah. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is think like me. And I want you to be, well, I can see you're in there already. And I would like you, sorry, to formulate the thought that you were expressing a couple of minutes ago that I asked you to hold for a moment. And maybe we can put it in this document now. Yeah? Everyone's eyes are on you. Yeah. Which part of the documentation was it? Can you remind me? Was it? Oh, we're still in this. Yes. Okay. We're still in there. Yeah. Oh, it was about my site and my site. What? Why are there two? Why are there two directories, two folders called my site? Is that right?
Either called the same. And you have like, I don't know, maybe a long diagram of parallel of something.
Okay.
It can get confusing really fast.
Okay. So we're still in, actually, we're still in, I'm going to copy that, because we're still in, let's look at what Start Project created. So if you look at the rules that I shared with you for a tutorial, is one of these, is it encapsulated in one of those rules, the principle that is behind your thinking? Just because it's not in these, this is not exhaustive, by the way. So, I can think of a good rule here, which would be reassure the user about potentially confusing things. Yeah, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list because it would be pages long. So I think that's, reassure the user about potentially confusing things. The reason I want you to think, to put the rule in, is because I want you to be thinking in terms of rules and principles. Okay? I want you to be doing actions, but always thinking in terms of rules and principles, because rules and principles scale and they make things consistent. That's how we can all work together if we share the same rules. Okay? About confusing things. Okay, and the problem is that we have two my site directories, and I think you're right, by the way. It's not just that you found it confusing. I know from experience that other users do. That's a simple empirical fact. It doesn't care. By the way, this is one of the as the author of the tutorial, I know what you need to learn. But I have to have my eyes on you the whole time to understand what you're actually learning and what you're confused by. If I write the tutorial and then I never watch a user using it, I've only done half of my job. Yeah. So we have two lines, and we often see users confused by that. Now, your job is going to be the immediate next action. Okay. Now, I mean the immediate next action. I do not mean the 5-year plan for improving this section of the tutorial. I mean something you could do in half an hour or 10 minutes or something like that. So what I want you to do now is write that in that box, okay? Good. So other people have started writing things. This is what I like. Okay, the word patch. Django used to get proposed changes as VCS patches, but nowadays we work with GitHub and PRs. A new contributor does not need to know nor understand what a patch is. Let's go and find that piece of the documentation. Oh, this is okay. This is someone's dived into here. I sensed your hand at work there. Good. Okay. Writing your first patch for Django. Okay. So this is not even in the tutorial. And there was something, you were starting to type something in there about the. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, actually, think about I mean, this sounds to me more like a problem rather than a principle. What is the principle?
Confusing the user.
Yeah, is it a tutorial? It is a tutorial, isn't it? Again, that one. Is it? Yeah, but isn't it? Oh, by the way, tutorials, I mean, tutorials are for learners, which is not the same as beginners. Nothing to do with beginners. Who arrived here by airplane? Okay, so your pilot at some point in the next couple of years is going to go back into the training, will go into the flight simulator to practice, I don't know, engine out landings. They will be in a learning situation, in a tutorial situation, in the hands of a tutor. Is that for beginners? No, it's not. But it's still a learning experience. They're not landing a real plane, they are having a learning experience. So tutorials are nothing to do with how advanced or difficult things are. It's just about whether somebody is there because they are learning or because they're doing work.
But you do have like different. You could have a tutorial that is aimed for beginners.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That you don't have a requirement of pre-knowledge.
Oh, look, you can have tutorials at any level you like. But what distinguishes a tutorial from something else is not how advanced it is, but whether the purpose of it is getting work done or learning something.
Oh,
Yeah. And whether there's a tutor present. Yep. Okay, so I don't think, you see, the tutorials are so difficult. I could have filled up 3 pages with rules for tutorials, but I think don't be confusing. Again, what you identified is similar. It's similarly anachronistic to the PHP example, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that should be, yeah, it's not the same problem, but it's related. Yes, you've got a hand up. Oh, you were interested in my rules. Good, I love it when people like rules. Okay, second and third rules. Yes. Okay, yeah, okay. I used to be a high school teacher, and I'm inclined towards thinking that teaching is not actually possible. All you can do is provide the conditions under which somebody will learn. Yeah. Everybody thinks they can teach. Everybody is desperate to teach. I'd love to teach you, but this is why I want you to do things and not listen to me, because you won't learn by listening to me. You will learn by actually putting things in that sheet. Yeah. So I don't think we should try to teach, but we can provide experiences. We can set things. Has anybody here taught a child how to ride a bicycle? Well, you didn't. The child learned by themselves. You just provided the conditions of the learning experience, yeah? However desperate you were for the child to learn, I assure you that you weren't able to transmit it. Their body had to learn it, yeah? Even in programming, the same. Does that help? Yeah. Good. Okay, let's have a look at our sheet. So any more? No, that's fine. It's good to tell people what they have to do. but the idea that I can transmit the learning into you, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And this is why, if you look at the Django tutorial, there's so much explanation in it, because the author, wants the person, I want you to learn. I want to make sure you learn. But that's not how people learn. They only learn by doing concrete things. Good. This is looking really good. Okay. So, where is, oh yeah, Django, so the problem is Django used to get proposed changes as VCS patches, but nowadays we're with GitHub. Good, and the principle don't confuse readers. Could you say say something about with anachronistic terminology or something like that, or with out-of-date terminology? I think that's good. Yeah. Okay, look, these are looking really good. Explain what each of them means and does, and maybe draw a diagram.
Sorry. I revised it.
You revised it?
Yes.
Okay.
Just don't use my site name.
Yeah, what do we need to do in order to do that, in order to have 2 separate ones? We'd have to add another
I just give it a different, as I understand it, the folder that contains the project my site.
No, because here we are, we're just anywhere in a directory. Then we run this command, and then it creates both of those. And I think there is a way to add, Natalia, you're probably more up to date on this than I am. Isn't there a way to add an extra option to this so that the inner one has a different name, or am I misremembering that? Okay, I'm misremembering that. It's always going to create them with the same name. Yeah, it's because of the way the Django template works. You think it's possible to create them with different names?
Yeah. Directory attributes that you can pass.
There is a name. Oh, there is a name and directory attribute. Okay.
Position.
There we are. So now we're making life complicated for ourselves. Now we've got to make decisions about what's more difficult for the learner, to have a simple command like that and then explain it, or to explain it, or to show the command with the extra argument and then explain that.
I'm specific. I'm sort of on the spectrum of how to make my life more difficult. I'm on the more difficult.
You would say,
part.
okay.
I'd say have the difficult version.
Okay.
But that's me.
No, that's fine. What I would like you to do is put that down as a suggestion in the sheet, and then just because somebody's put a good suggestion in the sheet doesn't mean we'll necessarily accept it. We'll still have to talk about it. We'll have to talk about it with Natalia. What are the other implications of this? Okay, but at least it's there. Even if the solution turns out to be different, you've still specified the problem and a possible way forward. Yeah. Let's go back to, okay, so we've got, that was mine, that was, why do we have, oh, did somebody add this because they want to have a different solution? Is that why that one's there? Who added line number 5? Is that yours? About plain old PHP, about remove the PHP. That's yours?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're proposing a different solution from mine?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move that up there, okay? And what I will, since it's exactly the same issue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I'll make it the same. I'll merge those two, okay? So that we can see that there are 2 alternative options for that, okay? Good, thank you. Changing the port. Who's the one about changing the port? Are you? Okay, go on then. Okay, tell us why you said what you suggested about that. This is changing the port. Sorry, can I ask you to can I ask you to speak up?
I don't think it's relevant.
Okay, so in the tutorial, it says how you can change the port, and you think that this is potentially confusing the user with something that's, I think it's just irrelevant more than confusing. I think in itself, it's simple enough, but it's an extra little burden of a little cognitive burden, yeah? And the user does not need to change the port in this tutorial, and if they do, or if they want to, they already know enough that they can find it out for them themselves. Yes? I agree. I agree with both of your solutions would seem fine to me. Good. And then we've got Natalia's patch. Okay, starting the development server at etc. So whose is that? Yes, please speak up loudly so everybody can hear you.
we have a lot of sections below which explains like we are running development server. So this is the name of the section. And but like what we want to have is a running application. And if there's like 3 paragraphs up to the point when we say, okay, now what you see is actually shows the application is running.
Where is it? It's the yeah. Okay, it's here. Yeah. Yeah.
Output doesn't highlight anything. So, and then we try to elaborate on what it actually does line by line, which is okay. But the essence of this is actually that line which says like application is started. Like my suggestion was to just highlight it with the bold text saying, okay, out of everything, if you emphasize to look on this gives you the maximum information we needed.
Okay, so things like your migrations, that's not relevant, for example. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So your suggestion is highlight the line indicating the application is running in bold. So you're suggesting to highlight that line, I guess. These 2 lines.
Yeah, because the first one doesn't really indicate that the application is running. Just
Okay.
Before.
Yeah. And that's adding stuff. Normally I like to take stuff out of documentation, not put stuff in. Okay. But I think that especially since I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but since you suggested removing something immediately there, I think that we're still on net zero. So yeah, I think that's good. Yes, I think I would agree with that. The principle is right. By the way, how many of these changes are rocket science? None of them. How many of them seem so small that you'd feel embarrassed to put them in a pull request? Yeah, don't be. Don't be. I refactored the PyTest documentation a few years ago, and I said to them, look, sometimes I need to do this in tiny little bits. Sometimes I will send you a pull request that is only changing a single title or a word. And they said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And I just fired them off. It made it very easy to work like that. And you're here at the sprint, I'm here, Natalia's here. We know you might be doing that, okay? So don't be embarrassed. We should get less embarrassed about that, especially in documentation, because we're doing things step by step according to the rules. If you do things step by step according to the rules, you will get to your final destination every time. When you walk up a mountain, you put one foot in front of the other in the correct way, and eventually you'll get to the top. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's good too. Look, oh, there's so many of these. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start blessing some of these because I like them. Okay. So, your suggestion about removing the PHP reference book, putting it somewhere else, I'd accept that. You know, maybe if you're not sure which is best, come and talk to us and we'll decide on which one's best. We have 2 my site directories. I'm not going to bless that one just yet because I see you're already discussing it with Natalia, so that's good. Changing the port. Yes, that has my blessing. There's a blank line here, which we don't need. Let's delete this row. Natalia, you don't need my blessing, but I'll give it anyway to remove the word patch.
Right word, because I'm not convinced. Contribution. Contribution work. What? Writing your first contribution. But we have a lot of places that mention patch. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure of patch.
Yeah. Are you here to throw us out for the next? Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's a break now. All right. How long do we go? Okay. How long do we go on for? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but Natalia, even if your immediate first action is not perfect, what's going to happen when you make the pull request, saying, writing your first pull request? There are lots of other intelligent people in the community. Somebody say, oh, Natalia, you said pull request. I think contribution would be a better word. Yeah. So don't worry. The next action is not to get to the top of the mountain. The next action is to put your shoes on and start walking. Okay. So same with your suggestion, where we're not quite sure if it's the right one. Put your shoes on and start walking in that direction. I'm sorry, I don't know what's your name? Marina. Marina's suggestion offered an alternative suggestion over here. Now, I don't know. I can't tell you which of these two suggestions for the same thing, where is it? These two suggestions is the better one. But if you could sit all night waiting for God to come into you in your dreams and tell you which is the right one. But so far, he has never done that, not for me anyway. Yeah. So make a pull request and then it's there. If there's a better, if there's a simple change that makes it better, somebody will tell you, take the first step. Yeah. Because it's still an action in accordance with the rules. So yeah, I like that. I don't know why we've got these blank lines where people trying to distance themselves from other people's comments or something. Yes, I like the one about highlighting the line. And, highlighting the line could literally mean highlighting it in bold, or maybe it means that we just say, notice the line above. That's another way of highlighting it. I don't care how it's done, but again, we're on the road. Database setup. Lots of text on how to set up a different database. Is this in the tutorial? Yes, it is. I mean, who thinks that setting up a different database is really handy for the person setting up their first? No, it's not. Whose idea? Well done. Good. Okay, move it. It's probably somewhere else. At most, I would add a link saying, oh, by the way, you can use different other databases in Django. That's all I would say. Yes, it has my blessing as well. More blank lines. I'm going to just have to get used to the blank lines. Who's made the one about writing your first view? Write your first view. The user does not see what direct impact of adding the URL path is. It's either a shy person or someone who's left. Oh, it's somebody online. That's why my thing went. Yes, Alex, you raised a hand. You're online. I don't know if I can hear Alex or you have to write something. Oh, it's in the chat. Okay. No, okay. I'm not sure why that made a noise, but I don't know who made the comment about writing your first view. I think that part is, I'm not sure exactly what part is meant by that. But I think there's a lot of stuff in the views section that's could be got rid of. What about right? Is the person in the room here? Yes, go on. Okay, but you've got an immediate action, yeah? If on Saturday you're in the streets, you start sitting down and doing that, and then you'll talk to somebody else, and maybe your first action will change. But now, when you arrive at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning on the screen, you open your laptop, you think, I know what I'm going to do, because it's written down there, yeah? So you'll be thinking, well, what should I do? You'll know what to do. You've got it. So good. I think, that gets my... what about pop-ups for quick explanation? People follow links. Who made that suggestion? Tell me more about why you made that suggestion.
I always start following links at 50 YouTube videos. And we have
okay. Yeah.
50 links to the on that in tutorial.
Yeah.
So that people, focus on where
I certainly sympathize with your problem. But on this occasion, I think it is your problem. I'm sorry to say that. As the, I think we have to be very strongly opinionated when we're doing tutorials.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be opinionated about that.
there's not a single
Yeah.
pop-up.
But I think the way we word links can be useful. If we say, if you need to know more about such and such, go and see that. That's good. You like pop-ups?
For very quick explanation.
Yeah.
You know, just pop on,
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah, I don't think we have even have the option for it right now. So there would be the next action would be to build pop-ups into the Django documentation, be a longer thing. Okay, sorry, somebody was trying to ask me questions here.
Just stop sharing.
Oh, just stop sharing. Oh, I see. That's what the problem was. Okay, good. All right. So I'm sorry. I'm not. Yeah, I don't normally use that language, but yeah. Okay. Confusing users with SQL migrate. Whose is that example? Not someone here. I'm going to only choose the ones of people who are available to talk about it. Read part 2 at the end of the page. Why would you link to the next page if the button isn't right underneath? That's right here.
That was me.
That's you.
That the-
It's. I agree with you that it looks a little bit unnecessary. You know, so I said people want to teach, but they can't teach. Yeah. Another often mistaken thing that people say about teaching is that repetition is the best teacher. You heard that? It's not true. Repetition is the only teacher. So on that basis, I think I wouldn't mind repeating that. Also, it reinforces the idea that this tutorial, I want you to go it through step by step, beginning to end. So I would actually leave that one.
And also, Daniele, because of accessibility, you may have a bigger font and the link too far away.
Okay.
Or on mobile, the link might move somewhere else.
Yep.
Because of CSS and stuff.
I think there are reasons for keeping it. That doesn't mean that your reasoning is wrong. It's just that in this case, I think that we should jump a different way. Yeah. Does anybody have one they want to talk about or want to ask me about, by the way? Yes, please.
No,
This one.
yeah, the term URL conf in the write your first view. I think it's.
Yes, I think the first time we run into URL conf, it calls it that. What the hell is URL conf?
Yeah, there's no explanation.
Okay.
They just mention what it's about.
Okay, so I know that I said ruthlessly minimize explanation. That does not mean never explain anything. You're teaching your child, you know, to make scrambled eggs in the kitchen, and you say, wash your hands because we always need clean hands when we touch food. That's the explanation. You don't discuss germ theory with them, or maybe you do, but that's not going to help. They'll go and do something else. Yeah. So I think we do this because of that, or this is a knife. This is the sharp end. End of story. No history of Japanese knife making compared to European knife making and so on. Yeah. So yes, what are you going to propose?
Either discard the term URL conf completely because it doesn't pop up anywhere else in the tutorial.
Okay, I think I would accept an immediate next action based on that if the word brief comes before the word explanation.
Okay.
Or very brief. Yeah, that sounds good. Anyone else? I want to show you one of my least favorite parts of this. It's this stuff here. The path function. Oh, the path function is passed 4 arguments. I mean, I've been using Django for, I don't know, nearly 15 years. And if I want to know that stuff, I will look it up in the reference. Yeah? Actually, I don't want to know it. I just want to copy things down and copy it from an example and change the name of the variable so it still works. That's the reality, yeah? But that's how people learn. by doing things from examples. All this bullshit about you have to acquire the concepts, that's shit, okay? This absolutely has to go from the tutorial. It has no place in the tutorial whatsoever. So if anybody wants to mark that for summary execution, I'll also accept that. Because it's absolutely useless information to a beginner. It's frightening and it takes up space.
Should we then do the possible cases from the example code that we have? So we stick only to one.
Example cases in the tutorial?
Exactly. Yeah.
Where is it an example case in the tutorial?
With the name, right? Other one is exactly with the include.
Sorry, you'll have to.
Yeah, exactly. This one and above, and right above this.
Okay, well, the Django tutorial is an interesting thing where it makes you change things actually quite a lot in the urls.py file. It starts with a really basic case, and then it says, oh no, look, now you've done it that way. Here's a shortcut, which is nicer. And then it does it again. And I admit that I'm in two minds about that. I'm not sure whether it would be better to go to the simple working case and say, this is how we do it straight away. And then if somebody needs to know the more general pattern, they can look it up. Or are they learning something useful by going through those steps? That's the question I would ask, because when we're doing when we're in a tutorial, the question I should be asking is, what do I want the user to learn? I'm not convinced that the different ways of doing it are really that useful. But I think that other people in Django might disagree. So that would need to be a conversation to have. But that doesn't stop you proposing it as a first step, by the way. Yeah? It would start a conversation. Are we out of time now? I'm completely confused about what time we should be stopping.
No, we are not. It's just loud out there because the last talk was cancelled. No worries.
The last talk.
One talk was cancelled.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. So I've got until another 10 minutes to go. Okay. Oh, we're over time. In that case, we're over time. Sorry, I can't keep you from your break or whatever. But look, there is a lot in here. I will look at this. I might. I should have asked people to put their names on it so I can find them and ask them what to do. But look, if any of you put your name in that column, you don't have to do it right now, this minute. But if you think you're going to do it while you're at DjangoCon, just put your name in that column. Say, I want to do this tonight in the hotel or on Saturday at the sprints, and then come and find me and we'll look at the right way actually to do it. Yes.
I was wondering what was the process of validation of it for the documentation?
What's the process for a pull request in Django?
Yeah, for the documentation.
Exactly like the one for code. It's exactly the same. And I kind of avoided all that question about how to do the pull requests and so on, because you can find that. Natalia's here. She can help you with that. I didn't want to get into that. I wanted to get into the thinking behind how you will go about improving something in documentation. Okay. So look, these are, you're all highlighting, I'm not in every single case, but in most cases, I see things in here that I think are right. I think I agree with the problems. I think that you're identifying real principles, real rules that make sense. And fewer of the immediate next actions I wholeheartedly agree with, but that's always the way it is. That's normal. Yeah. But they all look to me like good plausible next actions. You know, remove the link and rewrite the sentence. How concrete is that? That's a change that someone could do in half an hour. That might be somebody's first pull request, first patch into Django. And it would be a step up the mountain, according to the rules. And if enough of us do that, one after the other, we will get to the top of the mountain.
So I'm going to stop there because I'm over time. Sorry. Thank you very much. I hope that some of you will actually do something with this. That's why we're here. You know where to find me. Come and talk to me about maybe this or canonical or jobs or anything. Okay, I'll be very happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.